all of that stuff I was just telling you about, ClickFunnels and starting things and not working out and being scared. It was just all of this pressure to grow, to scale. If you're not growing, you're dying. You have to get bigger. You have to hire people. You have to become this billionaire. You have to be a Fortune 500 company. Like, it's always this goal of like big, 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 and bigger, bigger. Right now, I'm married. I don't have any kids. I want kids. I know in order to have kids, I need to have the time to take care of them. I don't want to give my kids to who knows where. So in order to make that possible, I need money.
Yeah.
And I need the money not to be tied to my time. So I want time freedom and I want money freedom.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Mompreneurs Making Moves. If you've ever tried to answer emails with a toddler pulling at your sleeve, or you've wondered how to grow your business while chasing your dreams and probably your kids, then you're in the right place. Every week, we'll get real about wins, messes, and all the magical moments in between. We have honest stories, practical tips, and the laughs that keep us going. So welcome back to another episode, again, of Mompreneurs Making Moves. I'm your host, Mariah Murdoch, and if you are looking for calm and ease through support and systems for your business, then we need to talk because my team at Infinite Exec is ready to help you. But today, we have the amazing Abigail. She's a chronic entrepreneur, author, coach, and figure-outer. She has a background in music, teaching, management, accounting, agriculture, homesteading, and the list goes on and on and on. Her goal is always to learn how to live the best, most fulfilled life possible and help others do the same. And for this specific episode, we're really going to focus on financial aspect of things and ways to make money. Because one of the top requests I've gotten from y'all is, how do I make money as a mom from home? And obviously we need money to live, to grow, to do things that are fun. I mean, you name it. But at the same time, we want to have that balance to be able to spend time with our families. Now, the reason why I have Abigail here as a guest is not necessarily because she's a mom, but because she's an avid entrepreneur and she knows many ways that you can make money from home. And before we get into that, I do also just want to do a quick shout out for the music for this podcast to Lucky 13 on Spotify. It's our intro and outro music and also happens to be a family member of mine. But I definitely wanted to do that shout out. So thank you for that, Lucky 13 on Spotify. Okay, Abigail, how are you today?
I am well. It's good to see you again.
You too. Yeah. And for those of you who are wondering what she means by again, I was featured on her podcast recently. So, definitely want to go ahead and listen to that episode as well if you're able to.
Yes.
So I really just want to get straight into, how did you become an entrepreneur and how did you know that you're a chronic entrepreneur?
Well, the chronic part's pretty easy because I start a whole bunch of businesses and then they don't quite work out the way I think they're going to. So then I start another one. But I started, I guess you could say my first business was when I was, 7. I don't even remember. But I charged my neighbor $0.25 per rotten grapefruit that I picked up out of her yard. And we had a little deal going because her mower didn't like to run over the grapefruit. So he'd go around them and then leave little spots in her yard. So so that was my first official business, I guess you could say. But then the first one that actually made any money worth talking about was my piano studio. So I started teaching piano lessons from home when I was 16, actually. I had been taking piano lessons and my teacher was like, you're good enough to teach and I have a wait list. So if you'd like, I'll send some people your way. So she let me propagate a business off of hers and she would send her wait list a message like, hey, you can wait for me or you could try out this other girl and she was my student and blah, blah, blah. And so I think it was like almost 10 students that I was teaching from home as a 16-year-old. So they would come to my parents' house, obviously. It wasn't my house. But I would teach half-an-hour lessons 3 or 4 days a week. And I made several $100s a month doing that, which for a 16-year-old is pretty good money. Enough to save up and buy my first car. So that was nice.
Yeah.
And then I got into, the very long story short, I got into accounting because in that first business, she taught me everything about running a piano studio business. But when I said, okay, I'm making money, so what about taxes? She said, sorry, I'm not a tax expert. You're on your own. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get arrested by the IRS. And so my tax strategy at that point in time was to not make enough money to need to worry about it. And my goal was to make less than the standard deduction so that I wouldn't have to pay any taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to learn accounting out of self-defense because that became a whole thing in the whole chronic entrepreneur story of starting businesses, having really great ideas. I still feel like most of them would have worked out, but I didn't know how to make them work out. And every time I got close to the idea of I might actually make money from this, I sabotaged it because I was scared of having money because I didn't know what to do with it and I didn't know all of the requirements and the responsibilities and like how do you handle it, how do you manage it, how do you do it well, how do you not get in trouble. And the idea people would make these grand promises of you can make $1 million with a funnel and like all these things, which sounds great, and I do want money to live and have a good life and take care of my family, but the thought of that much was just so scary. And if your brain says something is scary, it won't let you have it.
Okay, yeah,
So
that's interesting. I'm curious. So, when you got into accounting, you learned about finances. What would you say are the top three things that every entrepreneur needs to know about how to handle their money?
well, the first thing is that you can do it yourself. I think a lot of times the legal requirements and the liability stuff, and everybody's like, oh, I'm not an advisor, I'm not an expert, talk to a tax person. Every time they say that, it undermines your belief in yourself that you can do it. And you think, oh, I have to have an expert to tell me how this works. No, you don't need an expert to tell you how it works. They're just saying that so that way they don't get sued. That's really all it is. A regular person can and should understand it for themselves. And I really get on my little soapbox about that because we tend to just put off on all of the experts and think, oh, I can't do it. No, you can do it. And it's important to know, even if you don't want to do it, it's important to know how it works because as a CEO of your own business, even if it's a work from home side hustle kind of thing, you're the CEO of your business. And if you don't understand how it works, you're not going to feel like you can trust anybody else with it. And I've worked with we talked about that on our podcast, like working with clients that didn't respect you. And I've worked with some people that didn't trust me because they didn't know what I was supposed to be doing or not. And so if they saw anything that they were like, sketchy, then they lost all trust in me. And I'm not going to manage someone else's money that doesn't trust me. Like that's a good way to get accused of embezzlement and who knows what else. So
Right.
yeah, everybody who runs their own business needs to understand how money works. So then the second thing I would say is have a system for managing money. And that is big picture. Management and accounting are two separate things. Managing is understanding where money's coming from, what accounts it's going to, how that flows through your account structure, how you divide up your revenue so that way you're saving for taxes, you're paying yourself, you have enough to pay for your business expenses. These are not things that you're putting together willy-nilly. Like you have a plan and you have big picture. This isn't even budgeting. Like this is big picture percentage breakdowns so that you know that you have enough for everything that needs money. So having a plan for management. And then the third thing is having some kind of system for accounting. So management is forward thinking as money's coming in. Accounting is not backwards thinking, but hindsight. It's as the money's going out. So you're taking account of all of the stuff that the money did while it was in your business and where it came out of. So that can be something like a spreadsheet, although spreadsheets are very difficult to keep up with. So I would recommend having a QuickBooks account. You can do like a solopreneur, like a baby QuickBooks account. I've heard people use Xero and Wave. There's a lot of good accounting softwares out there that will integrate with your bank account. And so it can pull in the transactions for you. And then that makes tracking them a lot easier. Having some kind of counting software system set up, at least to be pulling information in. So that way, even if you're not doing it every month, it makes it easier to go through and do it later.
Yes.
I'm very data oriented. I like keeping track of things every day. I know most people don't, which is great because that's why I have a job. But making it easy for yourself or for someone else to come in and take care of that accounting stuff really just makes your life so much easier.
What would you say to the mompreneur who is like, yeah, I haven't been paying taxes the last couple of years. What should I do?
So the first thing to do is figure out what your tax liability would be. And at this point, if you haven't paid for a couple of years, you would need to talk to someone to like figure out what you would owe on. And then like at the end of the year, since we're getting ready to go into filing next year, you're probably going to have, well, it depends on how much tax you owe. If you have not that much that you owe and you have the ability to save that and pay it all at once in this next income tax filing, that's amazing. If you have more to pay and you're not going to be able to save enough, you can file for an extension and pay installments throughout the year. Very important to figure out like a general rule of thumb of a tax percentage, so that way you're saving for taxes as you're making money. And so you don't have to pay this one lump sum at the end of the year and, oh my gosh, it's so much money. Because if you've been saving for it, then you might actually get an income tax return at the end of the year that you give yourself because you have more in your account than you need to pay taxes.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about ClickFunnels for a minute. Tell us your story. Just walk us briefly through. So you were sitting at your computer. Like, what happened? Like, how did you get into the ClickFunnels thing? Where did it go up and how did it walk us through that?
Oh my gosh, that was such a roller coaster. Well, at the end of, so let's go back to what I was doing before. In 2019, I was taking a health coaching certification course. And at the end of the course, it was like business training. And I had been around online business enough at that point to know that everything they were teaching me was already out of date. So I was like, if I want to market a health coaching business, I need to learn marketing. I need to learn what's working now. And so I was going down rabbit holes and I found this one lady who was selling stuff. And then on her funnel, it had the share funnel. And I was like, what's that? So I clicked on that and that went to ClickFunnels. And then at the January of 2020, I did the One Funnel Away challenge and was very, I would say, I want to say gullible, but that's not a very nice word. I would say naive about like what's possible in timelines, even just like understanding how the timelines of what's possible with an online business. And so, and the prerequisites that you have to have. And so they were always like, you're one funnel away, this person put this funnel up and then they made this almost money. And so that gave me the expectation that you put the funnel up, you make all this money. They didn't talk about the fact that that person who did that already had an established business, already had a list of people, already had a product that they were selling that was doing well, that they'd already proven. And so they made it sound like the funnel was the magic pill.
Yeah.
And they did not, I feel like they did not do a very good job of letting people know that a funnel is a tool. It's a tool for an already existing business. You really can't start a brand new business with a funnel, and you certainly can't start a brand new business with no list, with no established product, with no, you can't run ads to something that has no backing. It's a cardboard box of a business. And so I didn't understand that. So I tried and I created a funnel in a month, which was a lot of new skills for me with, just doing things with a website and buying domains and DNS servers and all these big names and words that I didn't understand. And I tried running ads. Yeah. And I got maybe 300 impressions and nobody opted in on my thing. And so I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to make money quickly because I wanted to move out of my parents' house. And this was also during 2020. So everybody was freaking out over COVID, which I'm a very empathetic person. So just having that, in the aura of the world was impacting me. So 2020, I would say, is the worst year of my life. And ClickFunnels was happening during that year. There was a lot more going on than just ClickFunnels. So I'm not blaming them for all of my problems. But I do think that they did a very bad job of explaining how it works really and setting up good expectations. They're very good at emotional manipulation. And at that point in my life, I was very susceptible to emotional manipulation. And so it was a perfect storm of no boundaries. And I didn't understand what I needed to know to protect myself mentally, even in just expectations of how stuff works.
Yeah. Okay. So really quick, what is a funnel for those of us who don't know what that is?
So a funnel is a targeted series of web pages that takes a user through a sales journey. So if you go into a store and you meet a salesperson and they say, hey, what are you looking for? And you say, I want a tent. If you're going camping, they take you to the tent section and they're like, hey, if you're going camping and you need to have a tent, maybe you'll also want a camp chair to sit outside of your tent. And so then they show you the camp chairs. So the funnel is the online version of that. you go to the first page, you see the tent, and then when you buy the tent, it goes to the next page that says, hey, do you want a camp chair with that? And then you can add that to your order. And usually there's like 2 or 3 upsells after the main thing that you bought. And they are very effective tools, and they're very effective selling methods because a confused mind always says no. So if you have a brochure of products to pick from, and then you don't know what you're going to need next, it can be overwhelming. And so it's a way to maximize cart value from a specific purchase because you're showing them one thing at a time. They can say yes or no to that. And then they get shown the next thing. They say yes or no, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not knocking funnels. I'm just knocking like the click funnels. I want to say cult. Like it's very cult-y.
You're knocking the manipulative way
Yes.
that sold and marketed what a
Yes.
funnel can do for a person.
Yes.
And the way they intentionally left out specific information.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And what would you say are the top 2 things what are 2 red flags to look out for if you are trying to make sure you're not manipulated when it comes to marketing?
Yeah. So I actually wrote like 2 different articles on that on my website. So I have more than 2, but I think the top 2 would be if you feel like it's now or never. Like, oh, you have to make this choice instantly and put a deposit of more money than you have instantly by the end of the day. It's too much pressure. They're not so I've been through multiple offers like that. Every time that I gave in and was emotionally manipulated on something like that, they didn't follow through. The product was not good. It didn't do what they said it was going to do. There was one time where I put a deposit up. I think it was almost $1,000. And they never got back to me. Not even to like finish the sale or, hey, are you still interested? Or we're still holding your spot. Like I put stuff down and never heard from them again. So if they're putting that much pressure on you, that means that they don't have their priorities straight, in my opinion. And then, so first of all, if there's that much pressure, it's probably not a great situation. Even if their product does what it says they will, being in an environment of that much pressure, going through a product or a coaching whatever with that much pressure, just for me, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And then I would say the second thing is that you need to know exactly what you're going to learn from it and exactly how that's going to benefit you in your business. Now, if there is like a general skill thing, like you're like, I need to get better at copywriting or I need to get better at selling or whatever. Like if you're buying a thing, and I'm not going to call that an investment because it's not an investment. If you're going to buy a thing to teach you a skill that you're going to use later, that's great. But it is not an investment. And they use the word investment to be like, oh, if you invest this much money in this thing in yourself, you'll make this much money back. But they can't prove and you can't prove that taking that thing actually makes you this much money. So it's not an investment. It's an expense that you're a genuine, realistic, it's a valid expense to invest in your own skills, I would say. But if you're going to, again, loosely use the word invest in a product or a funnel or a tool or even a system that is guaranteeing that you'll save this much money or make this much money back in so many days, like you need to know exactly what that's for, what they're going to be giving you. And then it's a good idea to understand what prerequisites you have to have in place for that to work. And most people are really, really bad about explaining that in their sales copy, which is why it's important to have the time frame to decide so that way you can ask them and be like, hey, what do I have to have in place for this to actually work?
Yeah.
What exactly am I going to get out of it? Ideally, everybody would put that in their sales pages, but they don't.
So some of the things you can't sell that well if you do, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so talk to us about the avocado entrepreneur. Where did that name come from?
Mm.
And what should we think of when we think of that?
So avocado entrepreneur is an idea of my baby, I guess you could say, a movement of entrepreneurs who do not want to scale indefinitely. And I came to this concept actually through, I'm a Christian, so I was reading my Bible. And there's this verse in Leviticus, I can't tell you where, but it's in Leviticus somewhere. That's like when you go into the land, so he's talking to the promised land. When you go into the promised land, plant the trees. They're off limits for 3 years. And then the 4th year, all the fruit belongs to the Lord. And then the 5th year, you can start to like count on it for food. And I was like, huh, that just stuck out to me. And then I worked at a global nonprofit that taught agriculture. And so as I was around agricultural things, I was paying attention to the principles of nature that control agriculture. And I was like, I've been trying to do business the online marketer's way. And obviously it has not worked. And so I want to experiment with creating a business based on the principles of nature. And if a business is like a tree, can I use the principles of growing trees to grow a business that takes care of me the same way a fruit tree will take care of the person who plants it and takes care of it? Because all of that stuff I was just telling you about ClickFunnels and starting things and not working out and being scared, it was just all of this pressure to grow, to scale. If you're not growing, you're dying. You have to get bigger. You have to hire people. You have to become this billionaire. You have to be a Fortune 500 company. Like, it's always this goal of like big, 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 and bigger, bigger. Like right now, I'm married. I don't have any kids. I want kids. I know in order to have kids, I need to have the time to take care of them because I want to homeschool them. I don't want to give my kids to who knows where. So in order to make that possible, I need money. And I need the money not to be tied to my time. So I want time freedom and I want money freedom. And so Avocado Entrepreneur is my experiment. Like, I'm proving the theories right now. It's not a given thing. But it's my experiment of, can I grow a business based on the principles of nature? Because I believe that God made the world. And so his fingerprints are in everything. And the principles, the core concepts of life apply to every area of life. So if it works in relationships like in marriage or dating, it should work in a client relationship. If it works in growing a tree, it should work in growing a business. And I love seeing how things connect and like line up. And so as I'm experimenting, I'm reporting, I guess you could say, of what I'm doing and how it's working and whether it did something I wasn't expecting it to, and new stuff that's coming in. And so it's very organic, very understanding that there are time limits, time minimums, I guess you could say, and understanding that, because for me, that big thing was the expectation of the timelines and how long things take. And growing a tree takes time. Avocado trees take 7 years to produce fruit. An avocado entrepreneur has been in the back of my mind for 7 years. This is the 7th year. And I've just now started getting people interested in it and talking about it and coming on podcasts and inviting people on podcasts and like having a school community. And so for me, it's all apropos. Like, it all just comes together very poetically. But yeah. So I guess I'm trying to reach people who are also in the mindset of having time freedom, money freedom. They don't want the pressure of a corporation. We're not trying to grow a corporation. We're trying to do a good service, work with good people, make good money, live a good life, raise a good family, like have the best of all the worlds, I guess you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. And really quick, just because lack of time, I want to hit 2 things before we wrap up. One is, why would we want to join your school, your community? And then the second part is, then we're going to go into ways to make money for the listener.
Okay.
So really quick, why would we want to join?
Yes. So right now, the school community is the only place that Avocado Entrepreneur really is online. I have a website with some articles, but the people are all in the school community. So if you want to connect with other people with the same mindset around growing a business, that's where they are. But I'm also running the Worry-Free Money Challenge. So we talked about management and having the system of accounts and percentages. The Worry-Free Money Challenge teaches you how to set that up. So we're doing it live this next week, the first week of December. And then it will be available asynchronously for people who would like to go through it on their own. And then I'm also teaching a workshop in the school group on taxes the second week of December.
And would we just go to your website that I'll link at,
Yes.
the this episode? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, let's talk about making money. We're going to
Let's
do
talk
rapid
about making
fire.
money. All right, rapid fire. I have 6 ways for moms to
Awesome.
make money from home.
Okay, let's
So
do
the
it.
first way is something that probably most people don't talk about because we're doing a lot of online things now. But one of the ways is to start a daycare from your house. If you're already taking care of your own kids, assuming they're not like really difficult ages, it can be not that much more work to add a couple more kids. And so you can run a boutique daycare for, again, people that you know and like vet and not just anybody off the internet. But especially if you specialize in Montessori or Charlotte Mason homeschool styles, that's a very high value thing that people will pay for to have their kids start in that training methodology.
Yeah.
And then the second option is to become a stenographer transcriptor. So stenographers work in courts. They're the court reporters that are sitting there little typing while everybody's talking. And it comes out in gibberish. And so they need someone to transcribe the gibberish into English text. It does take, you have to be trained and you need a special software, which I've heard costs $1,000. So it could be a little bit more of a setup option, but that's a very specialized skill that not a lot of people can do. And it pays pretty good money. The third option is bookkeeping. You do not need to be a CPA to do bookkeeping. You can take a bookkeeping certificate, understand accounting, and do bookkeeping for people. If you want to level up to be an accountant, then you can learn more accounting level things, but you do not have to have a degree to perform these services. And that's something that you can do on your own time, in the middle of the night, whenever, pretty much. The fourth option is to be a virtual assistant, which I will let you take care of answering all of those questions. But yes, doing virtual copywriting, like assistant stuff or working freelancing, that kind of thing is an option. Starting your own school community if you have an expertise on something, if you're a teacher, if you're a coach. Having the school community puts it all together into one place. So you have the ability to talk to your people, the ability to teach classes. There's a classroom. You can schedule live events. Again, live in quotation marks, virtual live events. But you can also connect with people in real life. There's some groups that I'm in that have done in real life retreats with their people. And then the sixth thing is to teach in real life from your house. So if you know how to play an instrument, you can teach lessons from your house, just like I did teaching piano. You can also teach sewing. You can teach knitting. You can teach crafting of any kind. You can teach gardening. You can teach anything that is like an in-person tactile thing. You can teach in person as well. And sometimes, I know we talk a lot about online being the largest reach, but sometimes niching down to your actual locality, you might be the only piano teacher in your town. So you have a market of how many hundreds of people. So having that in an option of doing it in person can make it easier sometimes.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love that. And, I think too, one of the things that is important for mompreneurs who are looking to start their business is really lean into your strengths, but also lean into what you're passionate about, to what you can do well, though. You don't want to just market something to market it, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Because then you'll be in a little bit of a bind and that's super stressful.
Yes.
So yeah, no, but that makes sense. And I think I love your experimentation mindset behind Avocado Entrepreneur. Because I think a lot of people we get so focused on what we think we want that we don't take the time to understand what we're doing to begin with.
Yes.
And I think that your approach to entrepreneurship and to making money and to having a community and helping other people is very wise in that it takes into account the process, the time that you're talking about. Things don't just happen overnight.
Yes.
For most people. And then the second piece is just understanding and being conscious of what you're doing. Being present in your journey. That also stands out to me. So thank you for sharing with us on Mompreneurs Making Moves. And if you ladies are a mom and you're like, you know what, it's been about a few years, I've been doing a lot in my business, or I'm starting my business and I'm making a lot of money out of nowhere, and I do need tax support, I do need accounting, I do need help. Definitely reach out to Abigail because she's ready. She's here to help you. She's obviously very trustworthy, and she has a lot to teach you. So if you're also just learning to join a community that is, you're ready to grow in different areas as an entrepreneur, her community is. And again, all of that will be linked below. at the bottom of this description for the episode. So thanks for hanging out with us today on Mompreneurs Making Moves. And if you found a little encouragement, a fresh idea, or just felt seen, make sure to share with your mompreneur friends. And remember that every small step you take in your life and in your business matters, and you are absolutely not alone on this journey. Make sure to follow us at Mompreneurs Making Moves on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And you can watch the full episode on our YouTube channel at Mompreneurs Making Moves Official. Abigail, thank you so much again for being a guest on our show. Again, I encourage everyone to reach out and just connect.
Thank you for having me.